And so that personal decision, oh, I want a car that's going to kill people on the streets and not me, is going to privilege people who can afford the self-driving car.
Yeah, and we already have a little bit of a looking glass into how something like gene editing will play out. A program to edit something that will affect billions of people. When you take autopilot with Tesla, for example, you have a very small number of engineers that are deciding the decisions that your car will make, which eventually will be the decisions that billions of people will have to deal with in the future, where something like, a truck slides in front of you at an intersection and the car can swerve. And if it swerves 40 degrees, you hit an old man. But if it swerves 45 degrees, you hit two children. And if it swerves, 55 degrees, like you hit a pole, but you die. So it's like, what is the editing in that case going to be in favor of? Is it going to be in favor of killing someone who's older? Is it going to be in favor of protecting your life? Or is it going to be in favor of doing the least damage overall, which might be taking the driver's life? And to be honest, I don't want a car that's going to, like, as a selfish human being, I don't want the first option to be, if it has to kill me, like it drives off the cliff instead of, maybe hitting someone else and killing them. And that's a very dark thought to have. But as a selfish person and a human being who wants to survive, that's the type of things I'll ask before buying a car when it comes to that. Like, if that situation happens, like, am I going to be the one that the car is thinking about, or is it going to be thinking about like total life? And then the same thing, if for gene editing, there's going to be a very small number of people, probably tech people somewhere like Silicon Valley, that are making decisions behind closed doors to how these edits are going to play out to have an impact on billions of people's lives. And then the technology will just kind of roll out and we'll have choices within that. But in terms of how the technology is created and all the inputs that go into it, there won't be much of a selection from your average person.
That's a very good point. And again, viewing it as a legal scholar and sociologist, I look at what are the societal implications of what you just said. So first of all, who are the people who can afford those cars? They're going to be more privileged than the people walking around, probably, who can't afford them. And so probably inputted into this is the valuing of those people who can afford the cars. And so that personal decision, oh, I want a car that's going to kill people on the streets and not me, is going to privilege people who can afford the self-driving car. And then also, I have been studying, as have other people, the way in which racial bias is embedded into artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, other kinds of technologies that are being developed now. There's been more and more research showing how the algorithms themselves and the databases that they are run through embed racism within them. An example is police predictive analytics, where police departments are increasingly figuring out, which neighborhoods called hotspots do we put the most police officers in, because we can predict crimes are going to occur there. Well, the databases are based on arrests of people which are racially biased, as we've been talking about already. And so the prediction is that, the crime is going to occur in Black neighborhoods. So they send more police officers there, arrest more people there. And then they say, look, the predictions were accurate because that is where we found crime, because of the original loop back that was started by the bias data to begin with. And there's so many ways in which we see that. So even in your example of the self-driving car, you could imagine that something goes into the algorithm where dark skin is put in, or the model of the person who should be avoided from being hit is a white person. And,
Yeah.
we already see this in facial recognition technology, other kinds of technologies where racial bias has been shown to be embedded in algorithms where the technicians, the people who develop them say, oh, we don't have racial bias. But when there are unconscious biases and there is structural bias that's built into the database itself, and that then produces these discriminatory outcomes. So I think your example of self-driving cars is apt. And we see other examples like that where the small group of people who have control, and by the way, they have proprietary control. Even in government systems that use these predictive analytics, the companies that produce the algorithms have trademarks and other kinds of proprietary rights. Sometimes they don't even reveal it to the governments that are then implementing, their analytics.